If you're drafting a team this year and you want to dominate your league, this is the ultimate 2025 running backs rankings video. Forget boring lists. Today, we're unlocking the secret to drafting elite league winning backs with tier rankings and crucial tier breaks. Tiers are your cheat code to spot the elite drop-offs, snag undervalued gems, and avoid draft day disasters. We're diving into my top 24 running backs, but before we get into the running backs, let's highlight the importance of using tiers because drafting the right RBs is where championships are won or lost. And I've cracked the code with tier rankings. Why tiers? They show you exactly how and when talent drops, helping you pounce on elite backs and dodge overpriced fades. This isn't just a list. This is your draft day secret weapon to dominate the season. Starting with the S tier, which is elite backs, and that you cannot and shouldn't pass up on whatsoever. That is Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, I said Christian McCaffrey. So starting with Saquon Barkley, and this is how it's ranking and this is how it's playing out. So yeah, starting with Saquon Barkley, I'm locking it in. Saquon Barkley is my RB1 this year. I get the fear. Spending that early round one draft capital on him comes with a terrifying narrative. But scared money don't make no money. The old adage says RBs leading the league in touches the year prior, like Saquon did, crashed the following season. Then there's also the Madden curse and the Giants fans' voodoo after he bolted to their divisional rival Eagles and won a Super Bowl. But hold up, 2024 proved he's unstoppable. He was RB1 in 2022 fantasy points per game, RB2 in total fantasy points, should have been higher without the blowout rests, RB2 with 17 runs of over 20 plus yards, RB4 with 13 rushing touchdowns. That is elite production backed by an intact, dominant O-line. He still has room for improvement, though, in 2025. Jalen Hurts vultured 14 goal line touchdowns, giving Saquon 1 or 2 this year would definitely boost his value. Saquon's pass catching was pedestrian last year, and that won't happen in 2025. With a weaker defense that has lost significant closers and a tougher schedule, he'll see more targets later in games. Pair that with his explosive rushing, top-tier blocking up front, and surrounding talent forces defense to play honestly, which translates to less and less stack box. Saquon is the RB1 in 2025. Will prove it. Grab him early and don't look back. Coming in at number 2, we got Bijan Robinson, the ascending talent, and he was absolutely phenomenal in 2024. 2025, he is the lone back who can compete with Saquon Barkley for the RB1 slot. In 2024, Bijan was elite. RB3 in fantasy points per game, RB3 in total fantasy points, RB3 in receptions, RB5 in receiving yards, RB4 in rush attempts, RB3 in rushing yards, but there's room to grow. Kirk Cousins, for the most part of 2024 season, was a non-factor in the air, and defenses reacted accordingly. Bijan and the Falcons faced the 11th most stacked boxes in 2024 at an incredible 74% rate because defenses knew that Cousins couldn't hit his targets. Bring in second-year Michael Penix, who is a legitimate deep ball passer, and he has the uncanny ability to use his athleticism to avoid pass rushers. This will translate into the lighter boxes. Pair volume with increased efficiency and more explosive. Bijan is about to break fantasy football in 2025. Coming in at number 3, Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, when you look at fantasy football players and just NFL players in general, some of them you just have to like sit back and laugh at like how explosive and athletic and special they were. And in 2024, Jahmyr Gibbs was one of the most special talents. He was top 1 to 3 RB in every quantifiable running back statistical category, and he did that despite sharing a workload with David Montgomery. Things in 2025 are going to be different because Montgomery's in between the guards power run scheme is going to be a non-factor with 2 interior offensive linemen gone. You got Frank Ragnow, who retired, and Kevin Zeitler, who's now playing in Tennessee, which will lead to more receiving opportunities where 3rd and 4th and shorts were formality in years prior with Montgomery. Montgomery's inefficiency will lead to less of a backfield split due to his inefficiency and a positive game script for Jahmyr Gibbs because he's a game breaker, which will finally give Gibbs that bell cow usage and role we've all been dying for. Check this, by the way. In weeks 15, when Montgomery went down early against the Buffalo Bills and proceeded to miss the rest of the season during your fantasy football playoffs, which is very important, Jahmyr Gibbs put up 28.4 fantasy points. He was the RB2 that week. The following week, he was the RB7 with 25.4 fantasy points. 26.3 fantasy points the week after that, the RB2. And for fun, in week 18, obviously no fantasy football implications. And if your fantasy football season went to week 18, you need to get a new league. But despite that, he still put up 46 fantasy points and clearly the RB1. And he was averaging during that span 32 fantasy points per game. Translation is the guy is a clear-cut must-target RB in 2025 with fantasy football breaking upside in any sort of format. Speaking of fantasy football breaking upside in any freaking format, we got Christian McCaffrey. This guy has been and will continue to be an outlier at that position with an incredible receiving upside, with incredible touchdown upside, just a beast, a monster, one of the most special fantasy football players and NFL players we've ever seen at the position. And this is the cheapest you'll ever be able to get him. He's coming back off of some pretty terrible injuries. He had the calf injury, and then his knee went down as well. But before this season, you were not able to get Christian McCaffrey past the 102. Like 101 was somebody or CMC, and then somebody else or CMC. This year, you're getting him at a delicious discount at the 109, which is a value that I cannot stop clicking and stop investing in. And I mean, look, I get the hesitancy with the whole injury situation and scenario. But once again, every year CMC has been in the lineup, and every year CMC has been playing football, he has been a lock for a top RB. He's one of the best discount plays. If you're looking at the range that he's going around the 109 to 112, like it's him, Malik Neighbors, or Amon-Ra St. Brown. Give me him 100% of the time, every single time, because you're going to get that elite winning upside with Christian McCaffrey at that position and that draft value. It's one of the greatest, best draft values you could possibly have. And as you could see, I also have two A tiers. So we're going to move on to the next tier here, and that's the A tier 1, which is Derrick Henry, Devon Achane, Jonathan Taylor, Chase Brown, and Ashton Genty. And now let's talk about Mr. Derrick Henry, who was absolutely phenomenal in 2024, landing in a new home with the Baltimore Ravens. Look, I get it. He was dominant. He was spectacular. He was absolutely incredible, and he should be in round 1 of all of your drafts. But the two issues that people have is, one, he's an aging old running back, even though he has not slowed down whatsoever. He led the league with 20 plus yard runs, which is absolutely insane, absolutely bonkers. The touchdown efficiency is there. We know it's a power run scheme that he's going to continue to dominate in. The only issue is the game script isn't going to be as pretty because that defense is going to go from a bottom 5 defense to a top 5 defense. So he's not going to have to close out more games in the fourth quarter, but you're getting him in a like round 2 discount where he's going in the middle of the rounds and sometimes falls even further than that. So I'm okay, perfectly okay drafting Derrick Henry. Speaking of another round 2 running back who I'm perfectly okay getting as, you know, a star, as a person who you could start a hero running back build with, where you get one running back and you attack every other position plus a couple several other wide receivers for the first 6 rounds of your drafts, is Devon Achane. If you're looking at his splits in 2024, he was absolutely elite, absolutely electric, and absolutely spectacular in the receiving game, especially in PPR formats. You want to target this guy early and often. He was so dominant that in games with Tua Tagovailoa, he was the RB1 in fantasy points per game, which is absolutely elite and something that you want to continue to target. Now, I will caution you, pay attention to the injury news and the injury situation, because he is dealing with a calf strain. Calf strains with running backs is terrifying. We just talked about CMC earlier. This is something that you need to pay attention to. But once again, scared money don't make no money. You want to draft Devon Achane. He's going to be absolutely elite. And pay attention, because if he falls, I'm drafting him in dynasties. I'm going to send, you know, a lot of offers, especially as a buy low option. I think he's elite, and I think he has RB1 upside, which is spectacular. Speaking of RB1 upside, is a player who lost 2 significant interior members of his offensive line, both of them going to the Minnesota Vikings, and that's none other than Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor is somebody who, like, if you look at your fantasy football playoffs, he was one of the most special players down the stretch. He was very clutch, very crucial, very explosive, and you want those explosives in your lineup. You look at the quarterback situation. Obviously, Daniel Jones was just announced as a starter as I'm recording today, which is August 20th. Holy crap, we're what, 15 sleeps away from the NFL actually kicking off? I'm here for it. I love it. But let's get back to Jonathan Taylor. He's an explosive running back, incredible upside. Daniel Jones is a starting quarterback. Anthony Richardson's a dumpster fire. We know that the volume and opportunity is going to be there. So for volume and volume alone, I love Jonathan Taylor. And if you pair volume with an explosive back, you have explosive upside. So I'm investing in Jonathan Taylor. I know he's a fade for a lot of people, but I'm here to buy where he's dipping. And then we got Chase Brown. Chase Brown coming in at RB8 for us on this list and in these rankings. And I'll say this. I was one of the only content creators last year who had Chase Brown in their top 10 because I loved the efficiency, I loved the explosiveness, and I loved where he was going in rounds 10 to 12 last year in fantasy football drafts. He was absolutely elite, absolutely explosive, absolutely special, and he was without a doubt a league winner. I loved him everywhere, but I cannot rationalize buying a player at his ceiling and paying the inflation on what happened last year. I'm anticipating a little bit of regression. I'm not personally drafting him there. I'd much rather take a shot on my tight end one, and we'll put out our tight end rankings video later, which is Trey McBride, who happens to fall around the same range in the middle of the third round or beginning parts of the third round where Chase Brown typically goes. So give me Trey McBride over Chase Brown. I do like Chase Brown. The efficiency and the explosiveness is going to be there, but I cannot rationalize drafting him where he's currently going off the boards in ADP, and he's continue to shoot up as we speak. Coming in at number 9, and I know a lot of people have him as a first-round value, and I think it's an absolute mistake to draft Ashton Jeanty in round 1. I repeat, it's an absolute mistake to draft Ashton Jeanty in round 1. When I look at his draft capital and his hype and the way people are boosting him and doubling down on him and wanting to get him early and often in round 1 of fantasy football drafts, I can't help but think about the Marvin Harrison Jr. hype that we got last year. And he was ultimately a league loser and somebody that I avoided in round 1. And you just didn't get positive return on investment. I'm going to just try to talk through my dog barking. Bear with me, folks. So with that being said, Ashton Jeanty should get a lot of volume, especially in the run-heavy scheme and offense that you see Pete Carroll come in with as a offensive-minded head coach who prioritizes the power run scheme, but the efficiency is not going to be there. It's still one of the tougher defenses to play against when it comes to power run. All right, coming into our third tier, and this is our second A tier, and that is Apollo. Stop barking. That is, so coming into our second A tier, because I feel like these guys are all significant pieces to once again go hero running back with. We only have 2 A tiers. We had the A plus tier. This is kind of like your A minus tiers. Josh Jacobs, Kenneth Walker, Bucky Irving, and Omarion Hampton, the rookie. So let's start with Josh Jacobs. He was absolutely wonderful last year. The volume was there. New home, just like Derrick Henry, just like Saquon Barkley. And he was spectacular. He flourished. He had a lot of volume, but the inefficiency was something that I was concerned about because we had Jordan Love, who was essentially playing on one leg. And if you're a quarterback playing on one leg, you're going to face a lot of stacked boxes, just like Bijan did. And you're not going to have a lot of explosives. Fast forward to this year, Jordan Love is healthy. They added a wide receiver one who could spread the field and keep defenses more honest. And they have one of the deeper wide receiver rooms in football. I think the air attack is going to translate into more goal line opportunities and a higher touchdown equity for Josh Jacobs. So I'm all over that value. And speaking of the next value, a lot of people fading Kenneth Walker because of the injury risk. But when in the lineup, he is absolutely spectacular. And I'll let you guys in on a little secret. When a running back is in a contract year and he was, drafted relatively early, and we've seen glimpses of brilliance and geniusness, they tend to ball out that year. So in terms of dynasty, sure. I mean, like buy low and then sell high when he balls out this year. He has top 10 upside, and that's like his floor. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, if he's healthy. Well, the likelihood of him playing for his football career, especially at the running back position, is higher for him to play through an injury than it would be in any other scenario in any other year. I don't care about next year. I don't care about last year. I care about his efficiency as a receiver. I care about his efficiency in outside zone run schemes. And if you look at his new offense coordinator, Clint Kubiak, he runs the ball with outside zone scheme at a higher rate than anybody else in the NFL. I love the fit. I love the match. I love the improvement in the offensive line. Even though it's not the greatest offensive line, it's good enough to get the job done within the Clint Kubiak scheme. Kenneth Walker is a league winner. You got to draft Kenneth Walker this year. This next guy, Bucky Irving, is similar to like the whole Chase Brown situation. Like, I feel like we're drafting Bucky Irving at his ceiling. We are drafting him based off of what he did last year. He was explosive. He was remarkable. And down the stretch, the second half of the season, he was a league winner. And I love that for him. I love that he was on my lineups for that. And I love that I benefited significantly. But you're looking at, once again, a third round draft capital. By the way, Kenneth Walker's like a 4th or 5th round pick. So if you start here a running back with Kenneth Walker, that is my advice. That is the biggest steal in fantasy football at the running back position this year. Just do it. Okay, just do it. So going back to Bucky Irving, he was incredibly efficient, incredibly explosive. His break tackle rate was one of the highest we've ever seen in a rookie ever. And he did that despite playing behind, Rachaad White for the most part. Now, I will say Rachaad White was banged up down the stretch last year, which means that he had more volume and more opportunity and more touches. He also had one of the most advantageous schedules going against some of the most atrocious defenses in football. He has a slightly rougher schedule. I am anticipating a bit of a regression, and I'm anticipating that Rachaad White will come back now that he's healthy and dip into his role. So for that, he's not a guy who I'm like really targeting, but if he falls off, that's why we draft with tiers. If he falls in drafts, I'll gladly snag him as an RB2 in the RB2 territory. I'm okay, perfectly okay doing that. And then last but not least, we got, I believe, Omarion Hampton, who is the rookie running back for the Los Angeles, I almost said San Diego, for the Los Angeles Chargers. And like, what's not to talk about? He's big, he's violent, he's explosive. It's behind a power run game where we know that Greg Roman and co are going to use the run early and often to open up play actions. The Chargers last year with a lesser O-line ran the ball at an astonishingly high rate. They improved their offensive line. They improved their running back room because last year was just a dumpster fire with J.K. Dobbins, who was, for all intents and purposes, he was pretty good. He was pretty solid. He was above average when he was in the lineup and not hurt. But this year they upgraded. They got, obviously, Najee Harris is a free agent who's dealing with an eye situation. He's going to be a slow ramp up to come back if he comes back at all. But Omarion Hampton, give him bell cow usage with the volume and his ability. I think he's got a lot of touchdown upside. I think he's a sneaky receiving back. I do like him in that territory. There is one more back in this range, but I don't have him on my slide, so we'll just go into the next slide, and that's Breece Hall. Now, listen, I understand that Breece Hall comes with a lot of red flags. And last year, you guys spent the top 5 draft capital on him. But if you listened to me, if you followed me last year, you probably shouldn't have. Because last year was Ja'Marr Chase no matter what. He was our first round target. Didn't matter if it was the 101 or the 110 if he fell there. It was always Ja'Marr Chase no matter what. And we were targeting him early and often. With that being said, Breece Hall also in a contract situation, also in a contract year. His last year in university, he was absolutely elite, one of the most electric producers on a per-touch basis. His first year prior to injury, he was absolutely elite on a per-touch basis, one of the most efficient runners, led the league in fantasy points per touch in the span prior to his knee injury. Coming off of the knee injury, he was a top 3 running back, one of the most explosive and productive, efficient producers. And last year, at times, he was misused, he was abused, and he played through a really, really bad knee injury. Now, he sees James Cook getting his contract. He sees all these other backs getting their contract. He wants to get his bag. He wants to get his contract. You look at Aaron Glenn, and this is like a pro Breece Hall argument, and also what a lot of people are using as a counter Breece Hall argument. Aaron Glenn is coming from the Detroit Lions, and they used, obviously, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. You could flip the names around. I don't care. But they used both of them at a very high level, and you saw that 1A, 1B split where both running backs within 10 weeks of the season were top 10 running backs. And I'm anticipating that you could see that again, right? We'll come back. The dogs have stopped barking, so we're back. So going back to Breece Hall, I think he's going to be absolutely elite. I think the usage is going to be insane. If you look at every team Justin Fields has been on, the rush rate for those offenses when he's in the lineup has been at a top 5 rate, which is absolutely elite. I don't care if he's splitting carries with Braylon Allen. I don't care if Braylon Allen's going to dip in and touch on his touchdown efficiency. The fact that he's playing for the bag, the fact that he's still a receiving savant and an incredible receiver, and the fact that they're going to run the ball at an incredibly high rate has me incredibly bullish on Breece Hall this year. Going into the B tier, we got Kyren Williams, Travion Henderson, and yes, I said Travion Henderson, RJ Harvey, James Cook, Chuba Hubbard, and Alvin Kamara. So let's just talk on Kyren Williams. And every year, Kyren Williams has been a starter. The last 2 years, he's been absolutely electric, absolutely fine. My one hesitancy with him, especially where he's going off the board in rounds 3 to 4, when you can snag an elite quarterback, or you can even take like a sometimes a Trey McBride who falls. Sometimes you can even take a George Kittle, or you could take like a Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, or even Jalen Hurts. I'm perfectly okay reaching on Jalen Hurts or on George Kittle for what it's worth. But yeah, if you look at like where he's going, it's all dependent on his touchdown production, and he was just a touchdown producer. He didn't really do much as a pass catcher. He was actually bottoms in the, like, not even top 32. And there's 32 teams in terms of running backs efficiency on a per route basis as a pass catcher. That screams terrifying situation. He wasn't efficient or explosive. One of the lowest explosive rates at the running back. He was touchdown dependent. They brought in Jarquez Hunter, and I understand the narrative that last year, everybody was worried about Blake Corum, blah, 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 blah. But the touchdown dependency won't be there. And if you want to bet on touchdown dependency to be a reoccurrent theme with a guy who was not explosive and inefficient, unlike, the Saquon Barkleys, who we saw had 17 carries of 20-plus yards, unlike the Derrick Henrys, who we saw have 20 plays of 20-plus yards, like you're looking at somebody who was just a goal line guy, and that's it, and that's all. So I'm not betting on the touchdown efficiency to continue. I'm not betting on Jarquez Hunter. I'm okay drafting Kyron Williams, but that's why we use tier breaks. If he falls, I'm perfectly okay drafting him. Somebody who I think is going to be explosive, elite, special, wonderful, just electrifying. And I have tweeted since even before the NFL rookie draft, when I was going through the scouting process, TreVeyon Henderson. And I said, TreVeyon Henderson is going to be absolutely spectacular, wonderful, and he's going to be in a lot of winning lineups, especially in best ball format, which we do and we prioritize a lot, Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Sign up on Drafters Fantasy Best Ball. There's a tournament where $2.5 million is going to be distributed to all of the placements. It's a $20 buy-in, $500,000 USD equals the first. Use promo code DISCO to double your first deposit, dollar for dollar, up to $100. And yeah, TreVeyon Henderson, I went out to say that I like him more than I like Ashton Genty coming into this season, because he is an incredibly explosive running back. He's an incredible blocker. I want to say, like, coming into the NFL this year, I think he's easily a top 5 pass blocking running back. He's an every single down running back. He's shown glimpses of explosion. He's continued to be explosive. He's dominating in the preseason. He's going to be relied upon early and often. You look at Josh McDaniel's scheme. It's a dream scenario, dream situation. I'm not worried about Ramondre Stevenson dipping into his touches, because I believe they will be close to a 50-50 split, but I'm looking at the efficiency metric. And when you look at efficiency and explosives, he was one of the most explosive running backs in college football last year. If you would have put TreVeyon Henderson where, Ashton Genty played in the Mountain WAC, it doesn't matter what team he played for in the Mountain WAC, Ashton Genty would have run for like 3,000 yards and also caught for 3,000 receiving yards. He's that special. TreVeyon Henderson is just 100% incredible. I feel like Ashton Genty's boosted because he just played in easier matchups against guys who are going to be accountants and work for Amazon Prime. Moving on, we got RJ Harvey. He's going to be playing behind the number 1 PFF ranked offensive line for the Denver Broncos. They've spent the draft capital to go up and get him. They got rid of all of his competition, realistically. Jaleel McLaughlin, whatever. He's a cut candidate. Audric Estime, also a cut candidate. Everybody's worried about J.K. Dobbins also being signed in the offseason. The dude's name is J.K. Like, just kidding. I have no ACL and I hardly have a fucking contract. Do not worry about J.K. Dobbins stealing work from R.J. Harvey. R.J. Harvey is a pass-catching savant. You look at what Sean Payton has done historically with running backs. He's had guys like Alvin Kamara just be absolutely elite as a pass catcher in PPR format. You want to target this guy early and often. And you can look at any of the beat reports. You can look at any of the Coach Speak Index. They're all telling you that Sean Payton's saying this guy's a 3-down back. We like him. J.K. Dobbins is just a contingency plan. Moving on. I mean, that's such a common sense no-brainer. Moving on is one of the new highest paid running backs, Mr. James Cook. And look, last year I had James Cook as a top 10 running back. He's still an incredible value, and he's still an incredible player. Something that I love the most about him that goes, overslept is, like, last year he wasn't even a 3-down back, not even an every down back. Last year he didn't even touch the ball or was on the field 50% of the snaps. Last year, he played 48% of the snaps, and his touchdown efficiency based off of his explosive run rate was phenomenal. Now, I don't anticipate that he's going to get the 17 rushing touchdowns that he got last year. I don't think that's possible. I don't think he's going to repeat that. But if you pair up, his explosive ability with some more volume, say he gets 60 to 65% of on the low end of his offensive snaps as a running back. We're talking about a guy who's going to give you fair, if not positive, return on investment, where he's going off the board, sometimes even falling in the middle portions of the 5th round. I think he's an absolute steal and an incredible value, and you guys should think he's an absolute steal and incredible value, just like my Canadian treasure, Mr. Chuba Hubbard, who's going off the board and drafts in round 6 to 7, and that's criminal. That's terrible. He was a top 13 running back in 2024. He had a lot of volume, and he also faced a very high rate of stack boxes, top 7 in the NFL. He's got a good O-line. Like, people think Carolina sucks, like in the front, but it's their defensive front that sucks, not their offensive line. They actually have an incredible offensive line. The power run game, his efficiency as a pass catcher. Plus, when you bring in a guy like Teddy McMillan, you're going to face lighter boxes because defenses have to play more offense. I love the volume. I love the efficiency. I love the ability to be a great pass catcher and an in-between tackles runner. I think the touchdown equity should remain the same, and I think he's going to be absolutely special and wonderful, and I'm perfectly okay drafting him. Another guy who I don't think I love drafting him, but you have to give respect where respect's due, and all my drafts are done in PPR format. So Alvin Kamara is a PPR monster, but the New Orleans Saints is just a dumpster fire. Give me, Chris Olave, who's falling into rounds 8, 7, 8. Give me Rashid Shaheed, who's falling even later after that. Give me those guys, especially in best ball format. I'd absolutely love to draft them. Kamara is another year older, and I think the decline we saw down the stretch last year is there. I just don't think his heart is in New Orleans. I don't think he wants to be part of the New Orleans Saints. And I don't think that he's going to play every single down. All right, coming into our last tier, we got James Conner, another old back. Caleb Johnson, somebody who I'm starting to warm up to. Aaron Jones, another old back. And DeAndre Swift, just a guy who I don't know what the hell to do with. Starting with James Conner, obviously the efficiency, the explosiveness, the run rate, everything was phenomenal for James Conner. The only concern for him is, 1, will Trey Benson start stealing more touches? 2, how long will he be able to hold up, especially, now that he's getting older and he finished the season last year relatively hurt and relatively injured. It wasn't ideal, it wasn't spectacular, but I'm perfectly okay drafting him in round 6 to 7. Like, why the hell not? Especially as an RB2 borderline flex play in your redraft leagues. Give me James Conner. The upside's there, and I still think he's criminally underrated. Caleb Johnson's a guy who, I'm a Jalen Warren truther, especially in PPR format. But if you look at the vacated touches that the Pittsburgh Steelers have coming in this season at the running back room, Najee Harris is leaving 290 plus touches of opportunity, and you can't think that all of it's going to go to Jalen Warren. So you got to anticipate that even if half of those touches go to Caleb Johnson in round 7, he's an absolute steal and an absolute value. I think this was a good talent. I think there's no burst, but we're going to see him in several situations where they get to the goal line with Aaron Rodgers and co, and they're going to need to punch it in. I much rather rely on the bigger, more physical back to get it into the end zone, pair that with a little bit of volume. I think we're drafting him at his floor, and anything else is just good stuff. We want the good stuff. All right. Another guy who's just being completely slept on, even though he's older, is Aaron Jones. This guy's going off the board in rounds 9 in most of my best ball drafts, and a lot of people are pumping the brakes because Jordan Mason's there. If we're looking at touchdown equity, Aaron Jones does not need that. He's a great pass catcher. They've improved their run game, and they have essentially what is deemed to be a rookie quarterback with J.J. McCarthy, who was obviously drafted last year but was hurt most of the year. So this is going to be his inaugural season as a starting quarterback in the NFL. He's going to need to rely on a really good run game. They've told you guys that they're going to invest in the run game, bringing in 2 offensive linemen in the interior portion in free agency, and then bringing in another great tweener guard tackle in Donovan Jackson from the University of Ohio at another guard position. Like, they've invested heavily in the offensive line. I wouldn't be shocked if they finish as a top 5 offensive line. I have them graded as a top 5 offensive line. They're going to run the ball early and often. You want to invest in this running room. Just give me the guy who's got more pass catching upside, because we did not see that with Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason's going to be touchdown dependent. I don't like to bet on just touchdown dependency, but you'll see me leaving a lot of drafts with both of these running backs because they're both incredibly valued, and the running game is going to be a top 10 running room in the NFL. So why the hell not? This last guy, obviously, the most improved offensive line in the offseason is the Chicago Bears, but DeAndre Swift has the biggest asterisk rounding out our top 24 NFL running backs to target this year. His value right now is, like, I was enjoying drafting him in rounds 9, rounds 10. Right now, he's going off the board right after Omarion Hampton, sometimes ahead of guys like James Cook and Chuba and Alvin Kamara. I think that's absolutely criminal. I cannot rationalize drafting this guy in rounds 5, round 6, round 7. I cannot, because he's just unreliable. Obviously, the pass catching ability is going to be there, but I'd much rather take a later shot on your guy, my guy, Kyle Manon guy. Listen, I've been Disco, and I'm going to continue to be Disco. I don't know why I said it like that. This is our top 24 fantasy rankings. If you enjoyed the video, please smash the like the video. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. It really helps us grow, and we're trying to continue to grow. And thank you guys for supporting this and, you know, helping me make this a potential living for myself. If you guys want to see our top 10 quarterback rankings, which is a far more in-depth breakdown analysis of our top 10 quarterbacks, click this right here. Appreciate y'all. Until next time, peace.